Good Thursday, everybody. Yes, it is that day. Day 4 with the man, Mr. Frank Scalish, along with the man that usually sits to my right, Matt Pangrack. He is in Tulsa. And it is day 4 with Frank. Frank, how you doing, man?
I'm doing good. I'm doing well. I had an argument with my 20-year-old son this morning, so I'm a little hot under the collar.
Been there, done that, man. Know exactly what you're going through.
I'm not going to get into it, but okay.
Huh? Was he asking you how to invest all those winnings from this past weekend?
No, that's not Frankie. That's Josh, my youngest. Yeah, no. Josh is 20. Frankie's 31. Josh is 20. And he, he's a typical 20-year-old of today's mentality.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Jeffries went off on me the other day about that. He literally said, I guess your generation just doesn't understand it. Click.
I'm right. And aren't I, Frank?
Up on
Did I not open up a can of worms, boys and girls?
All I said was, dude, I have, out of all the things on earth that can get you worked up, you choose this. And he's like, this doesn't upset you. And I'm like, not at all. And he's like, you're in a crappy generation. Click.
I didn't say that. That was not my words.
You said, I guess that's it. Okay, yeah, I paraphrased it. You said, I guess that's just the generation you grew up in.
That's what I said.
Click.
That's semi-accurate.
And I said, I'm sitting there, and he was done, and I was like, the more I thought about it, the more pissed off I got that he said that.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's just, we're not going to get, I don't want to get into this because I'm going to get.
I don't either.
Let's change it because I'm going to get.
Yours was more intense than what our argument happened to be about high school bass fishing. I don't know what yours was about.
Basically.
High school bass fishing. Jeffries was just on fire over it. Just could not.
All right, hey,
I'm sorry, guys. I'm so sorry for all.
No, it's all good. All right, listen, we've got a great show today. Frank, tell the people what we're going to talk about today, and then I know it's day 4, but I got to cover a couple of things that have been developing. So, what are we going to talk about today?
Well, we're going to talk about the most obvious thing in the northern states right now, and that's the spawning smallmouth. Lake Erie's on fire right now. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
So I'll cover that, cover some drop shot techniques, locations. I'm going to even give out waypoints. No, I'm not giving out waypoints.
You're giving out waypoints?
No. But I'll tell you enough to know that you guys can go out there and find them and can actually catch them. It's a good time of year to fish for them because they're all shallow, so you're not going to kill any, or at least not many. Yeah.
Nice. All right, we will get into that. All right, a couple of things I want to let the people know. First thing, I mentioned last week that Fish Fishburne was going to be on the show. And I need to let everybody know that Fish is not going to be on the show. Can't tell you, have no idea. He did not give me a reason, but he just said, hey, man, I'm not going to be able to come on the show. And I texted him back why. I got crickets.
Ever.
All right. In the 17-year history we've been doing this, that is the first guess that situation has happened. Can't explain it. Have no idea why. I texted him. I tried calling him. I got no response, nothing but crickets. So that's a scoop on Fish. I have no idea what his reason is that he did not want to come on PTL. That's his choice. Everybody has a choice. So my apologies.
No and blocked you. That's cold-hearted.
Do what?
I said he said no and then blocked your calls. That's cold-hearted, Jeffries.
Well, I don't know if he blocked my calls. He just didn't answer.
I know. Well, that's a bummer. Maybe he'll come on sometime later.
We'll see. All right. Maybe I'll see him on down the road and continue to ask him, hey, man, how come you don't want to come on the show? Anyway, no response on that. All right. Good news, though. I have 2 people lined up that's going to be on the show. On June 7th, we are going to hey, by the way, when is Memorial Day?
When's Memorial Day?
Or Labor Day, or whatever this next
Labor
holiday
Day. I don't know the exact weekend.
Is it Memorial Day or Labor Day? I get them mixed up all the time.
What is
Help
it?
me out there, Matt.
Good thing I'm on a computer.
All right. Anyway, I think
it is Monday, May 31st. It's in 11 days, and it would be Memorial Day.
Okay, thank you. On June 7th, we're going to have Bruce Aiken on BTL to talk a little bit about the Classic, talk about the Elite Series year, and talk about so many things that Bass has going on with that organization. So greatly appreciate Emily and the staff over at Bass making this happen. So June 7th, we'll have Bruce Aiken on the show. We are also going to have Hank Weldon on the show. If you missed the show yesterday, I had a discussion with Matt when he was in studio about college bass fishing. And then I did not know that this press release was coming out yesterday about the combine. And we're going to have Hank on the show to talk a little bit about high school and college bass fishing. And I have numerous questions based upon the show from yesterday. So those two guys are booked, definitely going to be on the show. Now, here's the update on the vice president of sales with White River Marine. Tentatively right now, she is still scheduled for Tuesday of next week because we had to move the time. Don't forget, next Monday and Tuesday, 4 o'clock Central Time.
That's right.
Instead of 8:30 because of my basketball camp. So right now, as of today, that interview is still scheduled to happen. But there is a possibility that we may have to move the White River Marine executive interview to another date. I just want to give you a heads up on that. All right, the last thing. I put in the little, when I set up the show, I have to put a description on the YouTube page on what the show's about and what we're going to be talking about and everything. What I did for the show today, I said, obviously, day 4 with the man, Frank Scalish, going to talk smallmouth. All right. And then Mark has some unfinished business from yesterday. Now, I'm going to finish it right now. And we're not going to talk college bass fishing. But I am going to mention this. All right. I'm one of those dudes that I am a believer in following through with what you say. So basically what I'm going to do, folks, is, I left it on the editing desk over there, and I'm sorry. All right. But maybe.
But as soon as I get to that desk, I'm following through.
No. I don't need what's sitting over on that desk to follow through. Now, a lot of people out there, if you listened to the show yesterday, pretty passionate about how important that academics are, both in high school and college. And the true reason that people are fishing in high school and fishing in college is to get an education. So here's what I'm going to do. All right. Right now, today, as Matt squirms and moves around and does everything else in this video.
I love the passion.
Here's what I'm going to do. Out of my pocket, has nothing to do with my company. Out of my pocket, all right, I'm going to set up the BTL academic scholarship for 2022, the class of 2022 senior, all right, that submits the information on the form that will be on basszone.com here very shortly. All right, you fill it out. You fill out all the information. I get it. But I'm going to form a scholarship in the amount of $1,000 to an individual that I believe deserves this $1,000 to help them out in college. And it's 75% based upon academics, 25% based on fishing. All right? 75% is based on academics. And that's your total.
It should be.
It should be.
Yeah, it should be.
Absolutely, it should be. And here's what we're going to do, folks. I know we have a lot of listeners out there, all right? And if there's anybody out there, I don't care if it's $1, $5, $10, $25, or whatever the dollar amount is. If you want to contribute to this, I'm not a 501c3 or whatever the number is, all right? If you want to make a pledge toward this scholarship, and I'm starting it out with $1,000 of my money, if you want to make a pledge to contribute to anglers across the country from an academic standpoint. I don't care how good they flip. I don't care how good that they throw a Carolina rig. I don't care how good at topwater. All right? What I care about is the achievement that these individuals have done in the classroom. And it's going to start out with $1,000 out of my pocket. All right? For the class of 2022. So the form will be out there if you want to make a pledge. The pledges aren't going to be due until February of 2022. That's when we're going to make the selection. All right? If anybody out there, and I got a tremendous amount of feedback from the show yesterday, all positive, except for one. All right?
Sorry.
Except for one fan out there. But the bottom line is this, and then we're going to move on. All right? College fishing, high school fishing, your number one priority should be academics. All right?
Yeah, but that's with any sport.
It doesn't matter. You're right, Frank.
With any sport. You're going to school to learn. The sporting part of it is an opportunity to get some money, to have some of your college, tuition taken care of. That's your goal. But at the end of the day, college is for an education. And
100%.
That's what it's about.
You're dead on, Frank.
I tell that to my kids all the time. If you think that you can just skate by because you can throw a baseball or tackle somebody, you're out of your mind. You know what I mean? Because once that sport is over for you, what do you got left?
Exactly. So for those people that might be listening live right now or listening to the replay on a podcast, if you don't know what I'm talking about and why I'm doing this, just go back and listen to the show from yesterday and you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. So the BTL academic scholarship to one individual that is going to be a senior in the class of 2022, I'm throwing in the very first pledge, $1,000, and we'll see how much money. Now, this is what I'm going to do on that, Frank. Let's say we get to $3,000. Hopefully we'll get to more. That's going to be three $1,000 scholarships to high school seniors across the country of the class of 2022. All right? Dude, I'm telling both of you. There's a lot of things that get me passionate and get me fired up. I was really fired up yesterday. I was fired up after the show. I was fired up all day long. Carolyn, my wife, is like, what's wrong with you?
My beta blockers wore off.
What's wrong with you? Are you okay? I am extremely driven, all right, by what I said on this show yesterday. And some people out there may think it's not important, but being an educator and having coached for 29 years the game of basketball and being around students, this is an opportunity. The bass fishing world has an opportunity to stress what is important, and that's academics. All right? And you're right, Frank. It doesn't matter what sport that you're involved in from a high school or a college standpoint. It doesn't matter. Academics should be your number one priority. All right?
I mean, that's why you're in school. The rest is a bonus.
Yeah. So spread the word. More information is going to be available very soon on basszone.com. And I'm extremely excited. Folks, I don't care. Pledge $5. $5 is a spinnerbait. Well, maybe a little less than a spinnerbait. But
maybe a beetle spin. It's a beetle spin.
A pledge drive since PBS public radio in the late 90s. I remember they would always have the pledge drives for PBS radio.
Well, here's the deal. I don't want to.
Phones would be ringing in the background.
Look, I don't want to set up a GoFundMe or whatever that. Look, this is just a casual effort on my part to back up what I said, and I'm taking $1,000 of my own money to put my money where my mouth is. All right. So one student out there is going to at least get a $1,000 academic scholarship come the month of March of 2022. All right. There you have it, Frank.
Outstanding.
All right. Now it's your time.
And that's it for the show today, guys.
Tune in tomorrow where Mark goes after junior Bassmasters.
Jeez.
You know what? They get into junior high and those sixth graders, they don't understand the importance of long division. All they want to do is pond fish.
All they want to do is put the round peg in the square hole.
You know what? They take it for granted that their parents live in that subdivision with the pond. And you know how they got that house with the subdivision pond? Long division.
That's right.
Hey,
Education.
keep making fun of me, Matt. Just keep making fun of me.
Fun of you. It's awesome. That's a big thing that you're doing, Mark. That's a good deal. That's awesome. Seriously.
All right.
I didn't see it going that far.
Good job. It is a good thing.
All right.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to belabor this any longer, but education is the most important thing that you can get as a young man or woman, because nobody could take your knowledge away from you. And that's what people don't understand. I mean, there's only a few things in life that you have that somebody can't take from you, and that's your honesty and integrity and your knowledge. So knowledge is power. I mean, to coin a phrase, knowledge is power. Back in the day, I didn't actually start competing in professional bass tournaments until later on in life. I went to college for marketing and advertising, all the while, even though, when I was 14 years old, that's all I ever wanted to do is fish for a living. But, my dad pounded it in my head that you got to, get an education. You have to have a real job and blah, blah, blah. And so I did. I went and got it, my education and everything, and never really knowing how advertising was going to help me in the fishing world. Because at that point in time, my concern was getting my education. I fished a lot of semi-pro stuff through college because we didn't have college bass fishing. So all the while, anyway, so the long and short of it is, so here I am. I'm in my late 30s, 39, I think, or 38 to be exact, 39 maybe. I jumped into the Bassmasters and, qualified for the elites right out of the gate. And then lo and behold, all that education, that marketing education that I had gave me the ability, especially back then, because we didn't have this platform, to sashay through the media to help market and promote myself. And I was leaps and bounds ahead of a lot of other bass fishermen with sponsorship dollars, marketing programs that I implemented myself in with my sponsors. So that education was really the platform on how to career. And without it, I'd have just been cast into the weeds. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's important.
All right. One more thing, Frank. I forgot to read this. This is hilarious. All right. This came from a fan, Logan Lunn. And it's a real short paragraph. I'm going to read it real quick. Just wanted to write some words of encouragement to everybody on the BTL show. All right. I'm a delivery driver working the graveyard ship, and my trip to and from is basically an empty highway. You guys kept me from wanting to bash my head into the steering wheel.
Okay.
You guys make it very entertaining, and I love Uncle Frank. Can't wait to hear the marathon show. So many thanks out there to Logan. That's great stuff, man. Hey, that's what we're about. We don't want people banging their heads in the steering wheel, right, Frank?
No, we don't, especially when driving heavy machinery.
You told Frank about the marathon? Have you guys talked about that?
No, we haven't.
No, apparently I'm about to be surprised.
You get the 2 to 6 a.m. shift, Frank.
Oh, that's good. That's perfect for me.
So many thanks to Logan, and safe driving, Logan. We will continue, hopefully, to entertain you on the empty roads. So that's how we're going with that, guys. All right, Frank, you're ready to talk smallmouth finally.
Let's do this.
All right.
I'm ready. You know what's funny? Last night when you called, you're like, what are we doing the show on? And I'm like, smallmouth.
That's true.
So, well, okay. So here's the deal. All right. Everybody, and I'm going to just say this because it's factual. Lake Erie is probably one of the best smallmouth fisheries on the planet. Okay. I've been all over the country fishing, and I've been on some world-class smallmouth waters. Lake Erie is by far one of the greatest. Now, there's some debate with some of the, other Great Lakes and some of the lakes in Michigan, but for the most part, Lake Erie is the best. So what happens is this time of year, everybody waits and they can't get enough of when are they coming in to spawn? When are they coming in to spawn? Because they come in by the billions, and they're all within shallow water range. Because on the Great Lakes, water clarity is good, so they'll spawn as deep as 15 feet, and so a lot of the spawning flats are 10 to 15, 10 to 18, and the bass pile in there by the hundreds. It's the easiest time of the year to fish for these things.
Mm-hmm.
It's quite frankly, it's probably the best time to fish for them, because once summer rolls around and those fish start to get way offshore into 30-foot plus range, it's unfortunate, but most of those fish you catch are going to die. So with the spawn, most of them will live. The water temperature is still cold enough. They did a study, and they found that the delayed mortality rate on bass is the lowest ever in water temperatures under 77 degrees. So you're talking about water temperatures in the upper 60s. The survival rate of the fish is fantastic. So it is a really good time to fish for them. But here's a lot of the confusion. This is what I want to straighten out with some of the myths and rumors here. You have several different types of spawning behavior within the smallmouth. The first and the most obvious is the ones that migrate into the big bays and estuaries off of all of the Great Lakes. Okay, like Presque Isle, Ashtabula, all the harbors, bays, and I just named a few on Lake Erie. There's tons of them. Chameau Bay up north and stuff like that. Tons of them. Anyway, those are the obvious, spawning locations that these bass will do. The other one is main lake spawners that actually they live their entire existence on the main lake. They don't see a bay. They don't see a harbor. Their whole existence is main lake. They spawn on the main lake. They live on the main lake. They also can spawn on shoals in the main lake that are shallow enough for light penetration, and they can spawn out there too. So you have those factions. You got another faction of smallmouth that I don't think most guys are keyed in on, and that's the migratory smallmouth that run up the rivers to spawn. It's almost like salmon. They actually will migrate up these rivers, bigger rivers, not really too small streams, but bigger rivers. They'll migrate up these rivers like the St. Lawrence, St. Clair, and Detroit River. They go up those rivers and they spawn in the river. So you got three different types of spawning smallmouths that each will be targeted in different fashions. Okay. So for the sake of the argument, we're going to just talk about the main lake spawning smallmouth. So here's the thing. The best technique, obviously pre-spawn, when they first come onto the flats, I'm throwing jerk baits and crankbaits because I just love catching them like that. So that's kind of what I'm doing. And I'll run my boat in about 15 feet of water, casting towards shore or towards rock piles. If I side image it and I find rock piles, I'll fish the rock piles, and I'll throw the jerk baits, run down. I'll throw the Super Rogue 24A bomber on them, typical smallmouth stuff. And then the third thing is drop shotting. When I drop shot for these smallmouths, so here's what I look for. I find the flats, and wherever you come up on the flat, you're going to have a steep edge on it, and then it's going to flatten out for you. So I graph them, and I look, and anywhere that I have an outcropping that swings out, the inside turn on that is the high percentage area for the fish ganging up getting ready to spawn on top of that flat. So I'll concentrate on those areas with the drop shot. And basically, my drop shotting is pretty simple. I throw a 4-inch yum dinger. I throw a yum warning shot or a yum kill shot. I mean, I don't make it complicated because it's not. I mean, especially if the smallmouths are on a bed, half the time you throw out there and they're come up to get it before it even touches their bed. It's not like largemouth fishing where you got to beg them and tease them and aggravate them into biting. A smallmouth, when he's on or she's on a bed, is going to immediately attack anything that comes within a range of that bed. They're not shy about it. They're easy to catch. It's ridiculous. So let me just, when I won Buffalo, it was summer and the fish were way out. I was catching them 38 to 42 feet. And again, I threw a yum dinger on a 1/2 ounce jig head, and I threw a poor boy's darter on a 1/2 ounce jig head. Those are the only 2 baits I had out. And it was, pretty simple, but there's nothing better than this spawn. So here, let me show you something. I'm going to show you, if I could open the bag, they're childproof.
Wait, you said a 4-inch dinger on a 1/2 ounce jig head. So
Yeah.
you lit, like, what year was that?
05, 06.
You literally were throwing a Ned rig.
Oh yeah, dude. We didn't call it a Ned rig.
I know, that's what I'm saying. It was a Ned rig, though.
Yeah, we didn't call it a Ned rig. We just called it a jig head.
Yeah.
If
But it
we
was
would
a
have,
Ned rig.
I wish I would have thought of a fancy name. Then I could have been the inventor of the Ned rig.
It could have been the Frank rig instead of the Ned rig.
That's exactly right. It would have been the Scalish rig.
Oh, that's interesting.
But I didn't think about, but that's how I did it, because I was in, 10 and 12 foot waves. So I needed something that would get right down to the bottom where I could, get it right down there. So anyway, on my drop shot presentation for, especially the spawning smallmouth, what I like to do is I use about a 2 or a 3 foot leader from the hook to the weight. And the reason that I do that is because I'm casting it out a lot of times and I'm working it back to the boat. So your line's going to be at an angle. Okay. So I don't want it, 3 inches from the bottom, because it's just going to be dragging in the rocks the whole time. So I want it way above. So when I'm bringing it in, it's hovering, 1.5 foot off the bottom, 2 feet off the bottom. And this, like I said, the smallmouth guarding their nest, dude, if it comes near them, they're going to eat it. So let me talk about this one bait right here, the warning shot. It's kind of a simple looking drop shot bait, okay, but the tail on this thing is like a knife edge, okay. So basically, what this thing does, and I just nose hook it into the hook. What this thing does is it quivers and shakes with the slightest movement, like almost no movement. The current makes this bait wiggle and shake and shimmy. That's why I like it so much, because you're throwing out there. There's wave action. You're constantly moving. This bait's always doing its job. The other bait is the warning shot, and with the warning shot, this is the warning shot. This is the kill shot. So with the kill shot, it's a typical flat tail. It's got that little ridge on the middle of it. So what I do is I hook it so the flat part of the bait is up, and then this bait will have a tendency to swim more like this in the water. Where this bait here, where the warning shot quivers and shakes and shimmies. So I have 2 baits essentially the same size, but very different actions. And I like to fish the warning shot around heavy pressure areas too, because it's such a subtle little bait. And then of course there's the 4-inch dinger, which is like money in the bank. I've won more money on the 4-inch dinger smallmouth fishing than any lure I own. And it's perfect. I mean, it's just a 4-inch yum dinger. This color here is called Elder's Magic, which is fantastic on the lake. It's got a little bit of purple in it, watermelon belly. darker green pumpkin back. It's just perfect for it.
Frank, how much does color matter when you're doing this?
Okay, I am a firm believer in watermelons and green pumpkins in any hue range. So as long as it's watermelon, green pumpkin, basically we're imitating gobies for the most part. There are some crawdad imitating stuff that works because, smallmouth eat crayfish and they're in the rocks all the time. It's just a natural food. But our crayfish are green. They're like watermelon-y, green pumpkin green. And so that's why I stay within those hue ranges, because not only am I getting a goby representation, I'm also getting a crayfish representation. The other forage base that's a main forage base for these smallmouth is emerald shiners. Emerald shiners are light green on top, kind of silvery lateral line, transparent underneath, except for their gut bag is pearl white.
Holy cow, it looks just like that 4-inch Cinca.
Yeah, so if you...
I just Googled it. It looks just like it.
Oh, the emerald shiner?
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you... Yeah, and that's Elder's Magic. That's what that
Yeah,
color
it looks like an emerald shiner.
Yeah, exactly. So...
Can you Google that, Mark? Can you show an emerald shiner?
Let me see. This might take a minute.
Sorry, I didn't mean to throw you off there, Uncle Frank. But
no, that's okay. So
it makes sense.
But so those are really the color ranges I stay with. It's not, you don't have to get fancy with it, especially this time of year. It's not going to be some crazy, I won because I had some ridiculous color that they only made one of. That's not how it works in the spring. Okay, it gets a little more finicky in the summertime, but that's a different animal. We're talking springtime.
So, all right, I'm trying here. Sorry.
So, and then the only thing is like the other misnomer with drop shotting on the Great Lakes is I hear people go into 6 and 4 pound test line, and I pulled my hair out because of it. Because the reality of it is that I never go lighter than 10. The fish aren't line shy, and fluorocarbon is virtually invisible underwater. The only time, my rule of thumb is you use the heaviest line you can get away with unless it changes the action of your lure. If it affects the action of the lure, then you have to go lighter until you get the right action on the lure. But with drop shotting, it's a direct connect. You're connected directly to the line. Anytime you jiggle the rod tip, you're making your drop shot bait move, and that's fine. And I've never seen where I'm throwing 10 and someone in the boat's throwing 6 and they're kicking my ass. I've never seen that. So it's not important. In fact, I'll go to 12 and 14 sometimes as well. So that's the other myth I wanted to clear up. A good trick that I use, I don't use braid for my main line when I'm drop shotting, but I will put a little micro swivel above my hook, about 10 inches above my hook, a little micro swivel just to help out with line twist. Because when you're fishing that spinning rod all day, dragging it in the water, sometimes you get excessive line twist with that. But
why don't you use the braid? I'm just not a fan of it.
I went out, I experimented with the braid. That's a great question, Matt, because I experimented with the braid, and what happened was I had to compensate and fish a super soft rod because I kept tearing. There's the emerald.
Is that it?
That's an emerald shiner. But you see what I'm saying about the gut bag, pearl white, a little
and then green on
the lateral line, and then green on the back of it, and clear. See how the behind the gut bag to the tail is clear? That's really. Go ahead.
I'll just hold up that Elder's Magic too, like right now on your little side deal, and then you can tell.
Let me get to the.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Oh yeah.
So it has a lot of the same elements. So you're getting the crayfish, the emerald shiner, and the goby all in one little 4-inch thing that everyone thinks. Well, they call it a turd. A TRG turd. Everyone thinks looks like nothing, and it looks like everything.
It looks like everything. It's just a 4-inch dinger. I've alternated between the 3, the 4, and the 5. when I'm fishing. And sometimes it depends. If the bait's tiny, I'll go to the 3. But if the bait is a decent size, I'll go to the 4 and even the 5. People don't understand. Like when I Ned rig, and I say I'm Ned rigging, a lot of times I'm Ned rigging a 5-inch dinger, and it is deadly. And people don't get it, but a smallmouth bass is not shy to eat something huge. I mean, here I catch a ton of smallmouth bass on DD22s, and that's not a small crankbait. So, don't get confused. Just because it's called the smallmouth, that doesn't mean they don't eat big things. Okay, they do. Like when I burn spinner baits for them, I'm burning 3/4 and 1 ounce spinner baits. They're huge. They're not microscopic little things, So, but those are really the tricks. I mean, it's not fishing the spawn on Lake Erie is not rocket science. When you find them on the flats, you're going to find tons of them. And if you're not catching, go ahead.
Oh, I just say when you're done with that, though, go back to that braid because I think there's a lot of people who want that.
Oh yeah, the braid. My bad. Okay, so with the braided line, so I experimented with it because as I'm almost OCD when it comes to my fishing stuff. So I experimented with it. And what happened was I found that I was tearing bigger holes in the fish's mouth, and I was losing more of them when they would jump. Normally when I drop shot, I don't even try to keep them from jumping. I just fight them in, and if they want to go airborne, I let them go airborne. I just keep a tight line on them when they come out of the water. All they do when they jump, all I do is I just lean into them and make sure that I got a bow in my rod. And they could jump and do whatever they want, and I don't lose them. But when I use the braid, I was losing fish. So I said, well, in order to compensate for the low stretch in the braid, I got to get a softer rod. But I don't like fishing a very soft fishing rod when I'm fishing deep drop shotting stuff. I like it a little more rigid. So I'll use like a 7'4" action medium heavy for my drop shotting. In fact, Powell had made a bunch of drop shot rods that I was actually helping him develop. And I kept telling him they're too soft, they're too soft, they're too soft. And then he came out with that 744 and I said, you're on the money. This is the rod right here. And because I used to cut my bait casting rods up and make spinning rods out of them to drop shot with, because I wasn't happy with the spinning rods that were being made by any manufacturer. So I went to, so now Powell's got the perfect drop shot rod. It's a 744 endurance, and I love that thing. And it's got great backbone, so when I'm fishing deep, I can get a hook in them. It's got a good soft tip on it, so I can fight them and let them do what they got to do, and I don't lose the fish. So I kind of shied away from the braid. Now, oddly enough, I will throw braid as a main line on a flick shake rig, a wacky rig, the 1/32 and 1/16 ounce Ned rigs. I'll use braid as a main line then, because I'm throwing it out almost horizontally. I catch the fish and I get them and play them in, and I don't lose them. But with the drop shotting, for some reason, I just lost too many fish with the braid, so I went to straight fluorocarbon.
Interesting. All right, guys, let's do this. Frank, something's up with your connection. It's kind of crackly. I don't know what's going on. I have no idea.
Ooh.
But, yeah.
Okay, hold on.
It might be your headset. What I was going to do.
It could be.
Are you good?
How's that?
That's better. Could you hear it, Matt?
Yeah. It wasn't bad. It was just a little crackle sometimes, occasionally.
Yeah. It must. You know what it is? I ran the cord behind me, and I must be pulling it when I'm getting animated. So let me do this. I'm going to take this cord and I'm just going to lay it on the desk. How's that? Better?
Yeah, I think that's better.
Yeah. Like I said, you can still hear you. It's not like you're cutting out. It's got a little bit of a Rice Krispie sometimes.
Yeah, but that could be annoying. Are we good?
That's better. I think so.
You guys just took my mojo away, man.
I'm sorry,
still
man.
doing it.
Hey,
I had you all over the place with the dang shiner and the braid. You did a great job.
Here, let's do this, Frank. All right, because I can have Matt talk a little bit about what he's doing next week, which is really cool. How many years have you done it, Matt?
Kurt Dove's youth camp?
Yeah.
Oh, 6,
Yeah.
7.
So let's do this, Frank. Why don't you disconnect and then click on the link again after you check your connection? Because I just want to make sure the second half is good. All right?
Okay, so I have to leave you guys now.
Yeah. And then just click on the link again and come right back and make sure that your mic is good.
Bye.
All right.
You think I'm coming back? I'm going smallmouth fishing.
No, he's coming back. Hey, I like the comment. Hey, it was better than the Space Invaders Jeffries had going on during the Sunline Highline show. Yeah, I agree with that. Jeez.
All right, I'll be right back.
All right. Matt, tell people about what you got going on. That's a really cool event down at Lake Amistad.
He does one up at I think Kurt does one up at Oneida too now. He does 3, but Kurt does.
Really?
He fishes the MLF Pro Circuit. He does a pro bass camp. It's like Denny Brower and him, other guys who have done it, like Keith Combs, some of the guides that are down there at Amistad. But it's like the best way to describe it is like it's like a high-end camp, like a baseball or basketball or football camp, except for fishing. You just fish endlessly for 4 days. And then they have a tournament at the end where I don't know if you'll like this. Based on their fishing performance, he gives out some scholarship money. They could just compare GPAs, I guess.
Jeez, man. You are diluting everything I'm trying to accomplish.
No, I 100% am in you. The only reason that I went to OU was because of my GPA mark.
Yeah.
The only reason that I got a job with you was because of my GPA at OU in the communications department, because I remember that first meeting that me and you had, you really didn't care about the fishing stuff. You wanted to know about my academics. Remember, we're sitting in the patio at the Mont.
Yep.
And I wore a collared shirt. And you were dressed up, and you had a Chevy Avalanche, and it was wrapped yellow and purple with the bass zone from one side to the other, and I mean, it was literally, when I told people that I was interning for you, I said, you know that truck that drive, and they're like, oh, that old thing? Yeah, I know that. I said, that's who I'm interning for. But you are all about academics now. You're 2 kids, all about academics going through. So I'm not making fun of you at all. I just
all right.
Yeah.
Frank, you back? You're back.
He had the Table Rock shad color.
He had a Table Rock shad colored Chevy Avalanche. Remember, those were the things that you could convert into an SUV or a truck, and then you could put like a camper on the back of them.
100%.
Hey, you know whose idea that was? That was not my idea. That was the dealership's idea. Mark Heitz, who is very well off and living in Hawaii now, is totally out of the car business. That was his idea. He's like, what are these wrap things that people are driving? I was like, well, they're wraps. Let's do one. Let's do one.
It's a perfect form of advertising.
So that was all him. But yeah, that's funny you remember that. All right, Frank, sounds much better. The crackling is gone. We're good to go.
It was that old vinyl. I wanted to get that old vinyl pop sound going.
All right. So I guess to recap where we were going, that you were talking about the spawn and smallie primarily on the Great Lakes. You were talking, and this is the one that I want you to go back and talk just a little bit about. You're talking about, you said the main bend or the main turn. Now I'm thinking creek channel like a lake, but you're talking about, is it a I mean, you're the guy who's made glacial deposits famous.
Everything on the Great Lakes is formed by a glacier. Okay. So the ridge lines that you're seeing. So I'm going to do an aerial real quick. I'll just do an aerial photo of what I might be talking about. Then I'm going to label the bank, and then we'll just make our flat come out and do some things. Okay. Simple as it could be. Whoops.
Oops.
Emerald Shiner.
Yeah, hang on a minute. Good grief.
All right, we're going back to the Emerald Shiner.
No, hang on a minute.
We'll try to get you full screen,
Matt.
Frank.
That's
Matt
okay.
He threw me off my rhythm there. Okay, so hang on a minute.
Okay, so while you're doing it, that bank that you're showing there, all those undulations and variances are
All
caused
these,
by
yeah,
glaciers.
right. All the inside swings on these things.
So that's
And
where a glacier sat there longer than in another area, or maybe there was a runoff
it's
there.
where it's where the glacier carved. It carves them out. As the glacier moves, it carves the bottom out.
Okay.
So when you have hard ridge lines, this is hard to do because my thing's reversed.
Yeah.
If you have
No, you're doing good.
if you have hard ridge lines, okay, where let's say that this tops out at 14 feet and this is 22 feet. So if you have 14 feet up top, 22 feet down here, so that this ridge line is steeper. It's a steeper break. Okay. So what I focus on is anywhere it makes a turn, anywhere you see the turns in these things. Okay. That's what I'll be focusing on during this time because they'll stage and they'll stack up over there. So that's what that's all I'm looking for.
Okay.
Okay. It's an irregularity. So close your eyes and picture that flat is a giant weed bed. Anywhere the weed bed turns in and out, you have a better chance of catching largemouth. It's a staging point. So for the sake of there's no grass, it's just a rock ledge. Anywhere it turns, comes out, goes in, those are high percentage areas. Easiest way to target it. You're putting the percentages in your favor. Now, yes, there are spots on the flats that can produce lots of good fish, irregularities on top of the shallow part of the flat, such as rock piles, glacier deposits. Well, any irregularity on the Great Lakes is a glacier deposit, by the way. But yeah, so that's the kind of the things you're looking for. It's not the spawn is actually the easiest time to fish for smallmouths on the Great Lakes ever. It's a piece of cake. You've got all these fish in a very confined space. It's a great time to be fishing.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. All right, let me ask you this. There was a fan that sent in an email, and he wanted me to ask you about the comparison between the Big Lake and the SLR, St. Lawrence River.
Okay.
What are your thoughts on that, Frank?
All right. The St. Lawrence has a lot of current, so current's going to be a major factor. The smallmouth that live forever in the St. Lawrence, that never go to any of the lakes around it, that live in the river proper, they will spawn in pockets and bays and big flats on the main river. Okay. Pockets and bays off the main river and big flats on the main river. And what happens is they'll use things for current break to spawn behind. Could be grass. I've seen them spawning in grass by the hundreds. They'll hollow out a spot right around all this grass, and it protects them from the current, and they have a good life there. So that's kind of the things you want to do. Now, there is a faction of smallmouth that will migrate from the Great Lakes up to St. Lawrence. Mm-hmm. So you have two different smallmouth going on at the same time. You have migratory and you have natives. The natives that live there will behave like they would behave in any other situation. They'll seek out good spawning areas in the pockets and the coves, like I said earlier, and then there will be main lake spawners that go on the flats in the main river. The main river.
Right. All right, I'm going to ask. Go ahead. I'm sorry, Frank.
No, go. I'm done.
All right, I'm going to ask a stupid question. I just don't know. I'm not an expert. Don't claim to be an expert on spawning smallmouth. But I'm curious to know, do they have, and is there a sequence that they go through where you have fry garters with smallmouth?
Yeah, they all do. They all will guard fry. No question about it. The smallmouth is weird though, because I never really went after fry garters because they're so doggone aggressive anyway. I just fish for them. Like in the St. Lawrence, if I'm on the spawners over there, I'll throw a lot of Texas rig plastics on them. I'll throw jigs on them. I'll throw Texas rig tubes. lizards, that kind of thing, because I'm punching in the grass for them. Well, not theoretical punching, but
Right.
I'm flipping in the grass for them. And I've never seen a smallmouth in my life that I had to beg to eat a bait ever. Largemouth make me crazy when they spawn. I fish for them when I have to. I don't really fish for spawning largemouth that much, because to me it's exciting, but it's arduous at best. You know what I mean? I have tricks to make them bite, and I do those, and I can catch almost every one I see, but it takes time. And with smallmouth, it's like it doesn't take any time at all, because half the time your bait's going down and they're coming up to get it. They never even hits the bottom and they got it.
Wow.
Yeah.
How long will they stay on a bed? Like if you have if you're fun fishing, you're like, oh, they're up there, but you go back 3 days later. Is it similar to a largemouth, or will they disappear overnight too? Will cold fronts affect them like it does? Like where I'm just thinking about around here, like how many times, Mark, have you gone bed fishing and you go back you find like an 8 or a 9 and you go back the next day and you're like, I take off work, I'm going to catch it now, and the thing's gone.
Yeah.
Does that happen with smallmouth, or once they're up there, are they up there?
Well, now they're pretty much up there. I mean, everyone's going to be, every spawning fish is going to be in a different stage of their cycle. So where you come in, you got to remember the big females usually come in, lay their eggs, and scat. You know what I'm saying? So when you encounter a big female on a bed, that's a brand new spawning ritual taking place. The big females don't stay there forever. Most of the males are the fry garters. Most of the males do the work. So, when you encounter, but you got to realize something too, on the Great Lakes. I mean, there's so many 3 to 5 pound smallmouth there that you're not going to, bed one might be vacant, but 2 feet away is another bed with another big one. It's not like, some of the lakes that you guys have by you, where you'll find 3 or 4 largemouth spawning in this inside point pocket. Down the lake, you might have 5 more that you found under blowdown spawning. These smallmouth are spawning in massive numbers. Yeah, it's crazy. It's massive.
And then my only experience with spawning smallmouth would be a Canadian lake. And we went up there, and these suckers were very hateful towards a popar. Like very hateful, if you could see it. But is that a thing on the, and when you catch one, you'd catch 2. You would catch the male, and then it was always in pairs. Every single one, every rock either had 2, 4, 6, 8. Like it was, there was never an odd number, and it was every single cast when you got around one. Does that work on the Great Lakes in that open water, or 100%? Here, I was out a few days ago, and I was catching them on Super Spook Juniors. Okay, just because it's so much fun to fish topwaters. So I was catching them on Super Spook Juniors. And the thing about a smallmouth that I absolutely hate more than anything is their aim sucks. Okay. They were coming out of the water, complete full body out of the water on top of the Super Spook Junior, and missing it. They'd come from underneath, cartwheeling out of the water, Super Spook Junior going one way, Bass going the other way. And I was like, are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? And then conversely, on the next cast, I'd catch a 4-pound largemouth, and it would be like kaboom, and he'd have the thing choked down his throat. And it's like, so I had the best topwater day ever. These fish were coming. I got to tell this story because this is lunacy. These fish were coming from 5 feet away to run this thing down. And they were running it down, and half of their body was out of the water. So their dorsal fins were sticking out of the water, and they were sharking this thing. Literally, like half of the fish was like to their lateral line was above the water, and they were running this Super Spook Junior down. And I was like, I had the best. I was by myself. I had the best day ever.
I couldn't even believe it. It was so exciting and so much fun. And I didn't even pick up another rod the whole day. I'm like, I don't care if I catch 5 or 35. They were so animalistic. It was awesome. It was absolutely the best day ever. So yeah, to your thing, the smallmouth are crazy, dude. They don't care. That thing comes near their bed, they're gonna eat it. They don't care. They don't care about nothing, man. Fun stuff. See, now my heart's racing and I'm on
You gotta get Jeffries up there for that.
I know,
That's a bucket list for Jeffries.
It is.
Oh yeah, I'm telling you, the bedding time on the Great Lakes with smallmouth is fantastic. It's fantastic.
Well, I think what I want to do, Frank, next year, as long as everything's okay, obviously with the recovery this year, but as soon as basketball season's over and they start to spawn based upon the weather, dude, I'm gonna jump on an American Airlines flight and I'm up there. I'm there.
Absolutely. It's something to cherish, because it's for the people that don't live, on the Great Lakes. It's a great experience.
Yeah.
For the people that live on the Great Lakes, some guys take advantage of it. Some guys don't, but it's always exciting. I mean, it's really. Let me put it to you this way. During the smallmouth spawn on the Great Lakes, everybody's a hero, because it is that easy. It's that easy to do. Yeah.
Hey,
Hey,
you want to
Matt.
just skip the classic, Mark?
Do what?
You want to just skip the classic? I'll pay
no.
for half the gas on the way up there.
How long of a drive is it, Matt?
It's
Do you have
not
any
bad.
idea?
It's not bad at all. It really isn't.
I think, what is it?
What's
13.
How far
the
is it?
biggest town that I'm looking up there, Frank?
Cleveland.
Just look up Cleveland. I think it's 13 miles, 13 hours for you.
Oh, that's Cleveland, Oklahoma.
Yeah, don't do that. And don't go.
There's no smallmouth in Cleveland, Oklahoma.
No.
Unless you're at the fish shop.
Hey, many people have suggested we should just do a couple of shows from the Palace in Cleveland.
Oh, so no, Frank, here's the deal. So how is it going to be the end of July? Like middle end of July? Because I have to go to Oneida, and I go right up through.
You go right up, right down 90.
I'll literally be right there.
Yeah, it's going to be a little trickier at the end of July. The fish are going to be moving out. The spawn will be well over. You're not even going to hardly be an in-betweener. They're just going to start vacating.
Can we just go perch fishing then?
We could go do whatever you want, man. We could troll for walleye.
yellow perch and walleye.
Yeah, we could do that. We got to say, man's got to eat.
Yeah, it's 13. It's a solid 14 hours. You're probably talking a 15-hour trip by the time you stop and get gas, assuming there's no gas crisis.
Yeah.
15 hours. So that's a 2-day trip. That's a flyer. You want to fly that if you're not.
Well, the only thing is, it would be cool to do some shows up there. We'd have to take some of the equipment. Depending on the cell signal, we can do what I call these mini shows, where we use this right here. We just use the cell phone. If we have a good signal to where we could actually do some stuff on the water. That would be kind of cool.
It would be fun.
Yeah.
It would be a lot of fun.
As long as we're not doing this.
Yeah, well, that's the other problem. We've had some really good days the last few days where it's been fairly calm.
Yeah.
1-footers, 2-footers, fairly calm, and it's been good.
Hey, honestly, Frank, how hammered does that area around Cleveland get?
Cleveland proper gets pressured hard, but the smallmouth population here is not as good as it is in other areas of the lake. We just don't have the big spawning flats here. We do have some, but most of what happens in Cleveland is right off Cleveland. It just starts to drop down, and you're in 45, 50 feet of water, not even a half a mile out, where a lot of the other areas of Lake Erie, you have these huge, massive flats that go way out into the lake before they start to drop. So Cleveland's not the best for the spawn, but very close to Cleveland is. So it's not,
What was the town that when you guys went out of Buffalo that everybody was running to? The area, I don't know, it was like 80 miles or something.
Yeah, Dunkirk, Barcelona,
Dunkirk,
and
that's
Dunkirk.
it.
Yeah.
Is that a spawning area?
Oh gosh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So is Buffalo. Buffalo's tremendous.
Interesting.
Absolutely tremendous. Well, the lake next down in Buffalo. So when the glacier ended its movement, everything started piling up. So you got all these ridge lines in that Buffalo area on both sides of the lake, Canadian and American.
So, like the last couple of years, I feel like Erie people have been like, "Oh, it's off." Like we haven't seen, there's been some Toyota series there and stuff where it's been tough to catch them. Those fish are still there. They're just living somewhere. They're just not like where they normally are, right? Like it's not like there's a problem like with the smallmouth.
There is a problem, and
there is.
Yeah, it's been overfishing forever. It's been overfished for forever. And so what happens is a lot of times, aside from your migratory smallmouth that actually make big movements like into estuaries and up rivers, your main lake spawners are homebodies. They seldomly are from 7 miles from where they were born. So like the Ruggles area used to be the most popular area to fish on Lake Erie. They had so many tournaments, so many people went there, 90% of the fields would go there, and they removed all those big smallmouths off the area. And now it's not even worth going there. You know what I mean? And it's the tournament, it's tournament pressure. And what people don't realize is the mortality rate, the delayed mortality rate on these smallmouth is astronomical. It's way up there. It's over 38%. So everything they're catching, 38% of these fish are eventually dying because of delayed mortality. So if the study that what they did, if a smallmouth bass, a 5-pound smallmouth bass is 15 years old.
Wow.
Your goal in a tournament is to bring in all 4s and 5s. That's the goal. Okay. How many bass do you think are dying? So of course it's taking its toll. Now, what you're seeing is some of the weights are bigger to win, but you're not catching tons of fish. You're just not catching that many fish because you're targeting one here, one there, because you're focusing on trying to catch only 5-pounders. And so consequently, what's happening is the lake is not as good as it once was. Now, even if it's not as good as it once was, it's still the best smallmouth fishery on earth. You know what I mean? But fishing pressure takes its toll. I tell this to everybody. The one thing that I've seen that affects fishing more than anything is fishing pressure. It affects it more than weather. It affects it more than anything is angling pressure. And that's they did a study on this mortality rate, and it really shocked me. I don't even fish for them in the summer anymore unless I could find them shallow, because it hurts my feelings to know that I'm killing half of them fish. Even though I let them go, fizz them, and they swim away, half of those fish are dying. And so for anybody out there that doesn't believe me, look it up. It's factual. Look it up. Bassmasters started moving a lot of their tournaments up north in the summer for that very reason, because the water temperatures seldomly get over 77 degrees. And so the delayed mortality rate is a lot less.
You're talking about the way up there in New York and stuff, as opposed to the Ohio area where it gets a lot hotter and the water's a lot warmer. There's actually a different thermocline?
There's a lot of current in Lake Erie. So
okay.
The thermocline, it'll happen in certain parts of the lake, but for the most part, it's not thermoclining because of all the current. But here, the reason that like a southern impoundment will take a beating in the summer, most of them fish will die because your water temperature's in the 80s, in the upper 80s. And the hotter the water temperature, the more the delayed mortality rate goes up. So Bassmasters, and because of their conservation orientation, started moving up north. That's why they started moving up north in the summer, not because the smallmouth fishing is so much better, even though it is. It's because the fish are surviving better. So
I had one more question, Frank. You talk about the migratory smallmouth. And you have to understand, from Oklahoma, we don't deal with a whole bunch of current here, but you're saying these fish are spawning, they're going to the current to spawn. Are they spawning in backwater areas? Are they spawning directly in the current? Like, explain that scenario, because I've kind of had a hard time wrapping my head around where they'd spawn in a 2-mile-an-hour current.
Okay, the migrating smallmouth, the ones that don't spawn on the main lake, will migrate up estuaries, big giant bays and harbors, and they'll run up big rivers to spawn. Once they get up the river, I've seen them travel up some of the rivers so far it's trout water where they're spawning.
Wow.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. I used to guide for steelhead, and at the end of May, the steelhead start to fall back. They start to go out to the main lake. Well, we would encounter these packs of giant lake run smallmouths, ankle deep water way up these rivers. And so, so then we would run some smallmouth trips, fly fishing for smallmouth up there. I was amazed at how far these fish actually migrated. It's not a huge population that does it, but there is a migratory population that does that. And they'll spawn in, protected waters. They'll still be current, but it's not going to be like a raging, Amazonian rainfall. It's it's a river system basically.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. I want to shift gears real quick, and we'll wrap things up here shortly. But obviously, the Bassmaster Elite Series going on right now at Lake Guntersville, and we appreciate everybody watching while the live action's going over on Bassmaster.com. But Frank, I want to know, the show that we did yesterday, we had Matt Herron on, and he was, a lot of people thought he was sandbagging. I look at Bass Track now; he's only got one fish. Yeah. I told Matt yesterday, I don't think he's sandbagging. I think he's really being truthful and honest. Yeah. But this situation that is occurring at Guntersville right now, you have everything taking place. The fish are scattered. The fish are shallow. They might be deep in certain areas, but it's very easy to get into a situation where you just can't find them. Yeah, you might be able to find pound-and-a-halfers or whatever. Is there anything that you can recall on this body of water, Lake Guntersville, when this situation that is occurring right now happened? And can you explain how tough, frustrating, whatever the adjective is, and what you went through when you had a situation like what's going on at Guntersville right now?
Yeah, 100%. These fish are in a big state of flux right now. Matt mentioned something very peculiar. He said the water was super clearer than they've seen it in a long time.
Yeah.
Okay. So here's what happens. Grass edges become important. The spawn, for the most part, is over. The bluegill spawns are going on right now over there, and the bluegill there spawns a few times a year, actually. So you have this in your bag of tricks. You've got flipping grass edges. You've got topwaters, frogs, spooks, etc. Okay, where you're actually getting to the shoreline. Mm-hmm. You have ledge fishing, okay, which is what I live for on Guntersville. You have so many things going on at one time because these fish are so spread out. And so you have to cover tons of water. You have to be insanely versatile. I would probably live and die on offshore structure there right now because that's where the bass are going. Doesn't mean I would do good in the tournament. I might get my brains kicked in. But if you could find them offshore in any place now there, it's yours to win. It'll be a lot easier to catch bigger fish, your 5 bigger fish during the day if you get them on a ledge, because they'll be grouped up on the ledge. It won't be one here, one there. The problem with now is, okay, they're so scattered, you might not find ledges with them stacked up on it. And so you are going to be fishing for one fish here, one fish there. I'm very curious about this event because I was down there during a transition one year, and I pulled up to the first ledge and plowed like 3 or 4 4 and 5 pounders. I hit about 6 more ledges that I had and didn't catch them. I went to another ledge and caught a handful more, fished about, half a dozen more ledges, didn't catch one. I said, well, let me check some of the ledges in the creek mouths. Maybe they're not coming out here yet. First creek mouth I went in, pounded them. Next day I went out, I couldn't catch a fish on a ledge. Wow. Could not catch one. I had to go flip jigs on grass edges. So it's a really tricky time. Gunnersville's one of my favorite lakes. And it's this time when the fish are in this behavior, you could hate to be on that lake. Let's put it that way. You gotta be so versatile and fish so free. Because if you're running down the lake and you go, oh, there should be one over there, well, you got to pull in and you got to fish it because there might be one over there. You know what I mean? You can't. Yeah. It's tricky. It's real tricky. But I think here's what I think. Guy's going to either win it on a frog or win it on a ledge. That's what I think.
All right.
A lot of decisions.
Yeah.
Well, can I wrap up one more thing with your question? Let's say you got someone who's going to Lake Erie during this time of the year, not super familiar with it. Because I've been in that situation. I've been there with Chip Porcher, and we put in and we're in the harbor, and we're like, oh, look, we can catch him out of the harbor. And then you go out in the lake, and you're like, dear God, this is big. You're like, let's go over to that. You're just like, and then 10 minutes later, you're still like, you're like, the shore's not getting any close. Anyway. Can you pretty much take some of the stuff that you said and go anywhere and catch these fish this time of the year? Is it very predictable on where they are? I mean, it's not like, it only happens in this area or that area. As long as you have your wits about you, you're safe and it's a calm day, you can kind of apply this to hundreds of miles of stretches of the Great Lakes.
Yeah, absolutely. But, it's easier to pick an area. Yep. And fish the area because the lake is too big. I mean, gosh, what does it encompass? 5 states, 4 states in Canada.
Right, but if you're going to fish an area or have the chance to fish an area, you can put in, regardless of what area you're in, apply these tactics, take those 3 basic baits and the 3 basic colors, look for those drops, those channel where they kind of group up, get up in that 10 to 12 foot zone right where it drops off, put the trolling motor down and start looking.
Yes, and you will run into enough fish to keep you happy for the day.
Okay, absolutely. That was all I wanted to know because I mean that's the freaking good stuff, man. That's where I wouldn't have realized that. Now after the show watched, I'm ready to just freaking drive up there and drop the trolling motor and start looking.
Now understand, I mean, it sounds simple, and it is fairly simple, okay? But you're talking about a lake that would take you 2 days to run from one end to the other. I mean, this is a massive body of water. So, what I do is I take a manageable section. So I might only take a 10-mile section and work in that 10-mile section. Otherwise, you're wasting the day because you can't, what people don't understand. Here's the main thing about Lake Erie, and then I'll shut up. What people don't understand is there is a point of no return on this lake. Weather is volatile. It can change in a second. And I mean a second. So what happens is when you start to, let's say you launch your boat at point A, and by the time you're done fishing, you're at point F, okay? And you're 35, 40 miles from where you put in at, okay? If that weather gets bad and you're not accustomed to this lake, you're at the point of no return. You're going to have to put the boat in a harbor and go get your vehicle and then come back and pull out wherever you're at because it can be treacherous,
Mm-hmm.
My biggest thing that I laugh a lot about, some of the tournaments that I fish off the lake, I laugh. Guys are making 80-mile runs, 90-mile runs. I go, do you know how many winning bags you just drove over? You know what I mean? I mean, you just drove over 100 winning bags to go your 90 miles. I mean, you got to use this. That's where that education comes into play. See, I brought it all back around.
That's a great ending point, Frank.
Very nice. Very nice. All right, Matt. What do you have? Are you fishing this weekend? What do you got going on, man?
Yeah, I better fish that big bass bash. I have to reread the rules, make sure I'm still good to go, but it's on Grant. It's $50,000 big fish. So I'm going to the girlfriend really wants to jump in on that too, and they have like a woman's side pot.
Oh, yeah.
So it's like 190 per person. You weigh in every 2 hours, $50,000 for the biggest. It's going to be cloudy and overcast. And
That's
it's
okay.
a late spawn, early post spawn.
Yeah.
The bone spook, I think, it's going to be tough to go. It's tough not to be throwing that. I'll do it with Mark in mind. So that's what I'm doing this weekend. And then head to Kirk Doves and then back for a week. And then it's the Bassmaster Classic. And then after that is when I wanted to come up to Ohio there. And we do the prop shows. It would be kind of the middle to end of June. Is that no man's land, Frank? Is that a horrible time to be up there?
No.
We can still catch a few. Are you still around that time of the year?
Yeah.
We're doing live planning on air here, folks.
I'll figure something cool for us to catch. Don't worry.
See, that's never good when you plan a trip and someone says, I'll figure out something, because typically when you hit the nuts, they're like, oh yeah, dude, this is when you want to be up here. I'm done though. We'll figure something out.
No, I can't tell you verbatim what's going to happen. I don't know.
Okay. But typically that's a decent time.
Yeah,
you
dude,
I'll be doing a number of different things.
I'll be fishing and we'll figure something out.
So here's what I'm thinking. We got to do a prop. What?
He's a genius. What are you talking about?
I know.
Jeez.
But we got to do the prop show. What's your prop dude's name is?
Todd from Hydromotive.
We got to go do a day with Todd, because Todd sounds like the prop genius.
Listen, I'll convince him to bring his boat.
Okay.
And let him take you for a ride in his boat.
Okay, so we'll do his boat. I'm towing the cat up there because
we're gonna fix your cat up. But what I'm saying is,
I'm gonna do all the videos on getting that dialed in. It'll be the fastest it's ever been. It'll be the first 90-mile-an-hour stock bass cat that Rick has had out of. I'm telling you, the one I got now is a good one. It's Frank loaded with a co-angler. I hit 80.1 in the Tom Bigby waterway.
There you go, man. I'm telling you what, that's good. That's a good running boat.
All right, so we got to do a live Q&A then. So we got the prop show. We're going to do that up there. Then one of the days we'll do a live Q&A from the water if we can find that.
Sure.
And then me and you got to do a fishing video.
100%.
Then I need to bring back some yellow perch fillets. Those are the 4 things.
Okay.
Yeah.
That sound good?
Can you live with walleye?
I mean, I guess that's not a bad substitute.
Jeez.
Dude, we'll keep little ones. We'll keep little 2-pound walleye, 3-pound walleye.
Will we be trolling? What are those big banana-shaped plugs?
No. We're going to be fishing. We're going to be fishing Norman deep little ends and DD22s. We're going to
cast and crank or troll?
Troll.
Okay.
Or cast and crank if you want. I don't care.
No leeches? No leeches on 8-ounce glowing jig heads?
No, I don't make walleye fishing complicated because it's not. I don't make it complicated. I just go out, I get my 6, and I bring them home and fillet them.
But anyway, we need to figure that out towards the middle end of June, whenever your schedule allows. I think it would also be cool if we could maybe do some videos on your creative process and how you come up with different stuff.
Those are secrets, Matt.
I meant just like the general stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Hey, Frank.
I think you got enough people interested in that.
Yeah. Frank, when I come up there, dude, I'm simple. All right?
Oh, don't worry.
I just want to catch some smallmouth, have a beer, and go to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame one day. That's all I want to do.
We're in. Or
All right.
I could
Really
take you there
simple.
I could take you there by boat.
Nice. All right. That's all I want to do, man. Really simple.
Excellent.
All right, folks. That's going to wrap it up today. Don't forget, Monday, 4 o'clock Central Time in the afternoon, and then Tuesday, 4 o'clock Central Time in the afternoon, and then we will be back at our regular time, 8:30 a.m. with Frank on Thursday. No show on Wednesday next week. Dude, I'm taking the boys. We got a guide. We're going striper fishing at Texhome on Wednesday.
Panic attack. That's fun.
Little bonding with the two sons. So on Wednesday, that's the scoop on that. And then we'll be back with Frank on Thursday. And then Monday is a holiday that following week. And when do you hit the road, Matt? Do you know?
Well, yeah, I'll be back on that. So I leave this next Wednesday, and I'll be gone Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday.
Yeah. When do you hit the road? When is your next open? When is your next?
It's not till the end of July,
Wow.
29th.
At Oneida.
At Oneida.
Wow.
Can we do a small northern grass lake show for smallmouth in the midsummer? Sometime in July, Frank. Can we do that show?
We should probably do that show off the air.
Oh my gosh. All right, Frank. Great stuff for anybody that's wanting to know about the spawn going on Erie, and some juice there once again with more glacier info. So I know the fans and I appreciate. I know Matt does everything that you talk about, Frank. And soon we will have the Day 4 T-shirt in a limited supply. So, folks,
Day
you better
4.
get you some of that right there. Some Frank Scalish Day 4 merch.
I want
soon.
my favorite color, 7.
That's going to be Matt's all-time line right there, man.
No,
I
that
told
was
her
T-shirt.
they're working on some new designs. I said, listen, under no circumstances are you allowed to put a jumping bass in the design.
Yeah.
I said for 25 years it's Mark Jeffrey's brand. He doesn't like a jumping bass on a T-shirt.
That's right.
She just started chuckling. She said, okay, we can work around that. I said, it's a weird deal. I said, but that's his jam. That and 4.0 GPAs are Jeffrey's two things.
That's right.
There you go.
Doggone right. All right. Folks, if you missed the beginning of the show, go back, listen to it, watch it. Anyway, info on the BTL Academic Scholarship will be on basszone.com probably by Monday. I'll get that knocked out on Friday and over the weekend, and all the information will be out there. So, once again, thank you so much for watching. Make sure you check out, obviously, the action that's taking place over on Bassmaster.com. Frank, have fun. Matthew, good luck this weekend. Hopefully you get the 50 grand, and we'll have a little party. All right?
That'll work.
All right? Frank, take care, man. Be safe.
Adios, boys.
All right, that's it. We're out of here, folks. Everybody be safe.